All right, welcome. This is Mr. Asilian. We're going to do Unit 2, Lab 2, and this is making a list. So this is actually going to be a quiz app. So on this page, we will be developing a quiz app by creating abstract data types to pair the questions with their answers. So right now, you can do number 1 on this list, which is you pause it and decide which type of questions you want to ask on your quiz app. So try to think of maybe 3 to 5 questions and the correct answers that would correlate with those questions. So take time, pause, think about it, and when you're ready, you can start the video back up. So next part is you're going to go ahead and read the following section, and specifically, do not build these snap scripts. You will build a quiz app later on in the lab. So the first part. So what they're demonstrating right here is it says you'll use a list to store quiz items in a global variable and use a sublist for each question and answer pair. Then you can choose just one pair at a time to work with. So take a look at this block. There are lists inside here. So this one looks like it's a list. It includes a question and an answer. So it has 3 different questions and answers in there. So this list is a sublist, and it's inside the list, which is the computer science quiz. So we have a computer science quiz. That's a list. Maybe we want to have a different quiz and call it the engineering quiz. And that would have a different list of questions and answers. So this gets a little confusing when you do list inside list inside list. So for vocab, you can go over sublist. So a sublist is a list as an item in another list. And okay, let's take a look at this second part of the code. So it says, ask item 1 of item 3 of computer science quiz. So there's a computer science quiz. It's going to ask item 3 of that of this list. So 1, 2, 3. This is item 3 of that list, and it's going to ask you item 1. So it's basically asking you the question. Then here's the second part. Here's the if statement. So basically, the player of the game is going to type the answer in and seeing if the item 2, which is the answer, of item 3, which is this question on the computer science quiz, is equal to the answer that you put in. So does item 2 of that list right here equal your answer? And it says that is correct if you get it correct. So we go on to the second part, and it's saying item 1 of item 3 of computer science quiz is hard to read and understand. So they're saying a better way is to use abstraction to organize the quiz. And you can see how this could get kind of confusing, especially if you have a couple different lists, or let's just say you have like a contact list and you're saying, I want to find out the person's address, their phone number, their age, their birth date, and it can get kind of confusing when you start using item 1 of item 3 of computer science list, and it could just get kind of confusing. So in this next part, we actually create variables, and the variables will say basically what the question is, what the answer is, so it's a little bit more labeled and laid out for us. So it's the same exact code as up here, but it's laid out a little bit differently. We're using sublists, and you can kind of see the list. What is the first thing? What is the second thing? You can actually see in here is quiz item, question, answer. So next part is, let's see if we can understand this code. It's saying ask, and it's going to say of computer science quiz, item 3. So here's the computer science quiz, item 3 on that list. Ask the question from that item, and it's right here. So that makes it a little bit more clear. You're asking the question from item 3 of the computer science list. And if your answer equals the same answer of the computer science item 3, so computer science item 3, if it equals the answer of that, then say congratulations. So it's the same exact code, but it's laid out a little bit differently. So right now we have another vocab, and it's data type. So a data type is what kind of data something is. So it's either a number, a text string, a list. So we're going to create some variables, and then we can also say what to expect in there. So for this input, when you see these little columns, actually those look more like rows. When you see these rows, because rows go from left to right, columns are up and down. Think of like Greek columns. Rows, these ones go from left to right. So this one is going to expect a list when you see these rows. And that's for snap. So if I try to enter in numbers or text, it's not going to work. So each program language provides some primitive data types. So data types that are built in. So for example, Snap provides numbers, text, words, and sentences. So Boolean true or false values, list, and some that you haven't used as data, such as sprites and costumes. So if we click on this, it'll show us the different types on there. So, and it lists a bunch of different types on there that it can expect. So abstract data types is a custom data type that is meaningful to your program. It is not built into language. You develop it as a code. This is abstract because it's hidden in the details inside the constructor and selectors. So the programmer who uses the quiz item has to think only about questions and answers, not about list indices. So basically what it's talking about is up here, list indices, that's not very clear about what it's even asking. If I go down here, it says quiz item question. So here's the question, here's the answer, and basically, like it's saying earlier, the programmer doesn't have to worry about how to organize this. All they do is once they have this code in there, they understand that this is the question, this is the answer, and that's the abstract data type. It's basically selecting what you want out of this program. So we're actually going to go ahead and make this block, which is quiz item. Basically, you're going to put in, here's a question, here's the answer, and we're going to create two variables to hold those questions and answers. So this is considered a constructor. So it constructs one example of the data structure. So by naming these pieces of the structure, the constructor makes it certain that every time you use it, you build the structure in the right order. So we also have two over here, which is selectors. So selectors, you have questions from the quiz items, answers from the quiz items. Remember, we are going to come back up here, see if we can make sense of this. It's saying the question of the quiz item. So this is where it goes to expect a list. We're going to put a list in there. And it's going to say, look at item number 3 of the computer science quiz. And item number 3 is this question. So answer from the quiz item. We're going to go up here. See this one. If your answer equals the answer from the quiz item, and basically it's reporting a piece of that list. So blocks are selectors. They each select one piece of the data structure. So the constructors and the selectors together implement the quiz item abstract data type. So data abstraction is the creation or the use of abstract data types in the program. And we've gone over examples of how these are abstract data types. So next part is go on to number 3. Start a new project. Save it as U2L2 quiz. So next part is to create the custom quiz item abstract data types, both the constructors and the two selectors. So we're going to try to make these ones right here. So I am not sure if I've showed you this part before, but I'm going to go ahead, and this is what the quiz app should look like in the end. So press the question mark to add questions to the quiz. Press the space bar to play. Okay, let's press space bar. And it says, what's 1 plus 1? I'm going to enter in 2. You got it right. Enter the next one. 2 plus 2. Enter in 3. And it goes on. Let's press the question. So here is our list, and it says list item 1, and it says 1 plus 1, answer 2. So if you recall, we're going to go back up here. It's saying list, item 1, item 2. Okay, here is of the question answers, list 1 of 1. This would be item 1 of the question and answer, item 1. So I restarted this one. It says press the question mark to add a question. Okay, so let's see if I can add one. Let's do 1 plus 8. All right, so I think I fixed it. Here we go. What question would you like to add? Let's do 1 plus 8. And so I already had the 1 plus 8. Let's do 1 plus 9. Here you go. 1 plus 9. And there you go. 1 plus 9 is 10. So here we go. We're going to create the constructor. So go ahead and create a block. We're going to go to operators. Create a block. It's going to be a reporter block. So I'm going to put in quiz item, question, and answer. Press OK. And then here's where we start adding in our inputs. And okay, so remember that this right here, quiz items from questions right here, is going to basically, we're replacing this list with this right here, a more structured version of it. So basically, this is going to be a list. So let's go over to lists. Should be 2 spaces. The first item on the list should be the question. The second one should be the answer. We're going to press apply and OK. One plus 1. Click on it, and it makes a list. If we try it again, let's change the question around. And here's item 1, that is the question. Item 2 is the answer. And again, if we go over back to these ones, which is kind of what we're trying to recreate, is the first item is the question, second item is the answer, which is right here. So basically, this is the first item, second item. Okay, next part is we need to go ahead and create these selector blocks. So basically, when you click on this one, it should only report just the question. And then if we put on this one, it should report just the answer. So let's go ahead, make a block. It's going to be question from quiz item. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and change this around. So remember, you only want it to report the question from this list. So let's go ahead and do. So you're going to report item 1 of the quiz item. So right now, this one will only report the first item of whatever list I put in there. And right now, it should only report the first item, which is 1 plus 2. If I click on it, it only reports 1 plus 2. We're going to create another block, and it should say, what is the answer? And it's going to only report just the answer. So go ahead, create another block. This is your reporter as well. And this is going to be the and same directions. We're going to go ahead and report item 1. Actually, remember, this is not item 1. We're going to report item number 2, which is the answer. And put in there 2 of the quiz item, or basically the quiz question. So if I plug this one in, it should be the answer, 3. If I plug it in over here, it should be 2, or 1 plus 2. All right, let's go back and see if we can kind of make sense of this and actually make our own quiz now. So let's go back up to the top. Basically, we need to create the list that we can work with now. So let's go ahead and create a variable. And I'm just going to call it semester 1 quiz. And now I have semester 1 quiz on there. Okay. So very similar to GPA calculators, we're going to set semester 1 to a list. Remember how if we want to keep this list to continue to expand, we have to make it smaller. So it's not expecting one answer. It's going to expect it to just go to a list. Let's click on this, and it's created a list. So we're going to add whatever question and answer to my semester 1 quiz. All right, let's click on this. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's actually expand this because I believe there should be a part B, which is pretty nice. Okay. And then we can go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more questions on here. Let's do 3. Answer is 4. So let's add another one. 4 and 5. So it adds it on there. Make sure that these are not connected, or else it's going to reset the semester quiz to just a plain list. So now we have our quiz app on its way. We're going to use the specify an input type. So basically, when you create a block, you can say, I only want this to accept lists. I only want this to accept text or letters. So we can go over to these and edit it. And say for the quiz item, this one should only be so for over here, we make another quiz type. this arrow right here and say basically we're only looking for lists as our input. And over here only texts and numbers. So that's just an option to always keep in mind when you're creating these variables. So for part number 5, it says create a global variable and store the quiz items and initialize list. Use your constructor with this where it's appropriate. So let's go back over here. So we have already created a list. So what's kind of confusing about this is it's a list inside a list. You can also go over here and say view. So if we click on the inside, you can do view table view. And that makes it, to me, it makes it a bit more organized. I think to most people it makes it a bit more organized. So if we say go to semester 1, on item number 1, you're going to report item number 2, which is the answer. Or you could say go to semester quiz variable, go to item number 3, report the answer. So that would be item number 1 of that list. So this is considered table view. We can also go back to list view, but I do like it in table view for this type of problem. And you can also click on that bottom right to expand that table. So we're going to go on to vocabulary. So a vocabulary table. A table is a two-dimensional data structure with rows and columns. If you use spreadsheet program, so a very common one is spreadsheet, what is displayed is considered table view. And then in Snap, table view, table is implemented as a list of the table in which the sublist is one row of the table. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple more questions in here just to fill it out. All right, we have a pretty decent list of questions. So I've added in a couple, an introduction, and then you guys can use this introduction. And here are some blocks that I used on there. Try to create a quiz that is very similar to these questions over here. So here's the blocks that you can use. And basically it should run through and ask you a question, and then you give it an answer, and it says either it's correct or not correct. And we'll go ahead and take it a step further in next video that I see you in. Make sure you save your work. You do not want this to be deleted, and I'll see you in class.